Real Madrid getting Mbappe and Trent as free agents in successive summers. Man City paying only €60 million for Erling Haaland. Or what about prime Lewandowski moving from Dortmund to Bayern for free? Yes, none of these transfers would have been possible if it wasn't for football agents. And while in the past they've just been the official representative of a footballer, now they're an integral part of every transfer deal. And in the next 9 minutes, we'll tear down what agents truly do, why they stir controversy, and share explosive real-world dramas starring the biggest names in the business: Mino Raiola, Jorge Mendes, and Pini Zahavi. Now, before we talk about the real-world explanation, we need to provide some theoretical context. According to FIFA, an agent is a natural person licensed to perform football services on behalf of a client for the purpose of concluding a transaction. This transaction could be anything from transfers and registrations to contracts and employment agreements. But what does that mean in practice? Well, firstly, agents negotiate all aspects of a transaction, including transfer fees, player salaries, bonuses, image rights, clauses, and release arrangements. Without agents, players would be at a disadvantage when negotiating with experienced club managers. Of course, there are examples of players who refuse to hire an agent. One such case is Barcelona's Rafinha, who's been without an agent since his last representative, Deco, left him to take up the role of Barca's sporting director in the summer of 2023. So yeah, this indeed means that for the last 24 months, Rafinha has been acting as his own agent, as his own PR team. Everything regarding his legal rights and obligations has been regulated by himself. And to clarify the whole topic, this would have been the case for every professional footballer if agents didn't exist. Just imagine, you're playing for your dream club but receive a multi-million-dollar offer from a small club outside of Europe. Only you're responsible for this tough decision, whether to continue fighting for your spot without any guarantees on your playing time, or to go to the USA or Saudi Arabia and bring home the big money, but have nobody care what happens to you. Well, as fate would have it, this is exactly what Rafinha had to go through last summer. Al Hilal made a €100 million offer for the Brazilian, and Rafinha had to choose. However, there was one important detail. Almost every fan wanted him to leave the club. Not until Hansi Flick arrived, however, when the fortunes completely turned on its head, and Rafinha became one of the world's most feared forwards, finishing the season as La Liga's Player of the Year. So, as you can see, the agent's role is fundamental in the modern game. They matter because clubs rely on them to bring in contracts and speed up deals at critical moments, as well as preventing costly errors. Players need them to avoid undervalued contracts and lost opportunities. So, one thing is for sure. Without agents, modern football as we know it would collapse under its own complexity, no matter whether you like them or not. They can certainly be controversial and even greedy at times, but the responsibilities are unmatched. Now, how about we take a look at the anatomy of a transfer deal? You've played FIFA, or EA Sports FC as it's known, right? Well, if you played in career mode, you've probably tried to sign Mbappe or Haaland, so you're already familiar with the basics. However, the difference is that real life is messier, more political, and much more expensive. A proper football transfer doesn't just happen overnight. It's a careful process that begins long before the headlines break, and the agent is usually the first to act. So, as we touch the media importance, let's clarify. If you've been hearing about a potential transfer for a relatively long time, say 10 to 15 days, that doesn't mean the move has started within this time frame. The initial activity most likely began weeks, if not months, before you saw the breaking news on Sky Sports or Fabrizio Romano's Instagram page. This brings us to another important question. When do agents start negotiating with new clubs in their clients' best interests? Well, in most cases, there is one non-negotiable condition and one variable. The non-negotiable condition is that the player must be unhappy at his current club. Every controversial transfer you can think of happened because the player was not happy, with a few notable exceptions of course. Examples include Luis Figo moving to Real Madrid in 2000, Neymar moving to PSG, and Trent moving to Real Madrid. In each case, the agent played a key role. But what's the variable condition then? Well, most high-profile transfers happen when a player's contract is coming to an end. In other words, when there are less than 24 months left on it. So, if a player from your club has fewer than 24 months left on his contract and is not initiating a renewal, it's likely that he's waiting for the club to make an offer or is already in contact with other clubs. This is where the expertise of a good agent comes in. It all starts with a whisper. An agent tests the waters. They might call a sporting director to hint that their player might be open to moving, or sometimes a club approaches the agent first, gauging availability without making a public commitment. It's in this quiet back and forth that deals are born. Once there's real interest, the agent collects an offer sheet. In FIFA terms, imagine you've decided to bid 80 million euros for a player, and you're now haggling with a selling club over the balance between upfront payment and add-ons for goals or trophies. In reality, that's only half the battle. While the clubs negotiate the transfer fee, the agent negotiates the player's personal package, which includes salary, a signing-on fee, image rights, performance bonuses, and sometimes additional benefits such as a house, a car, or even schooling for the children. Once the financial negotiations are almost finalized, the agent acts as an intermediary for lawyers and accountants, ensuring that all paperwork complies with FIFA, UEFA, and domestic regulations. They arrange medical tests and handle visa applications if the player is moving to a different country. One more minor but essential detail is that agents often juggle multiple bidders to keep the pressure on. It's not uncommon for them to leak interest to journalists to increase their players' value. One recent example is the transfer of Nico Williams to Barcelona. In the end, Nico Williams signed a new 10-year deal with Athletic Club. But let me take you back 2 weeks. The latest news is that Nico Williams has informed Athletic Club that he wants to move to Barcelona, and only Barcelona, and that the personal terms have already been agreed. Or at least, this is what Fabrizio announced.
Nico Williams and his agent have informed Athletic Bilbao in the recent hours about Nico Williams' decision to go to Barca.
However, a couple of hours later, a German journalist stated that Bayern Munich are still not giving up on Williams and will put as much pressure as possible on Barcelona in an attempt to hijack the deal. This whole situation suggests that Williams' agent is probably responsible for leaking this information, or he's trying to secure the best possible deal for himself and his client. And when we're talking about big names, Williams certainly has the potential to become a world-class star. But let's talk about some already established players and their agents. Take Mino Raiola, for example, the late king of controversy. Everyone paid their respects after his shocking death in 2022, but he was one of the most unpleasant people to negotiate with during his lifetime. Why? Because he always won. Win after win, no matter the client. He turned Zlatan Ibrahimovic into football's ultimate globetrotter and engineered Pogba's world record return to Manchester United for 105 million euros. He reportedly earned over 25 million euros for himself, more than some players earn in a season. Clubs hated dealing with him, but his players loved him because he always secured them huge salaries. Then there's Jorge Mendes, the Polish-Portuguese fixer. He's Cristiano Ronaldo's right-hand man and masterminded Ronaldo's transfers from Manchester to Madrid and then to Juventus, as well as his shock move to Saudi Arabia. Mendes doesn't just represent players, he also shapes managers' careers, such as that of Jose Mourinho and Nuno Espirito Santo. Through his company, Gestifute, Mendes is undoubtedly the most successful football agent as of 2025. It's no surprise then that the current global superstar, Lamine Yamal, is yet another of Mendes' clients. Pini Zahavi, the discreet Israeli businessman, is another legend. He masterminded Rio Ferdinand's record-breaking transfer to Manchester United in 2002 and famously helped Roman Abramovich buy Chelsea, thereby changing English football forever. More recently, he was the driving force behind two highly controversial Robert Lewandowski transfers. First in 2014, Lewandowski moved from Dortmund to arch-rivals Bayern Munich, a move that some fans compared to Figo's betrayal of Barcelona in 2000. Then in 2021, he supported Lewandowski's decision to swap Bayern for Barca. And there you have it, football agents and their huge roles in football. Explained while you drink your morning coffee. Hope you enjoyed that one, and if you do, don't hesitate to hit that like button and subscribe for more football insights. Also, you'll absolutely love our previous upload in which we explained the importance of academies in football. So, catch you there.